Jay here for Stretford Paddock. This is the Paper Talk. As you can see, I'm in the studio. You know what to do by now. Get involved in the comments and the chat. Loads of stories to get through. We're going to have the latest on the takeover. Is there any news when it comes to the takeover of Manchester United? I know there was news even last night. We had it on the Transfers Live. A little bit of a story developing there from Bloomberg, the business publication. We'll get into all that stuff anyway. Also, transfers. It looks like we're missing out on some. The Mount one is rumbling on. We could be about to make a bid for Moises Caicedo as well. So we're going to get into all that stuff. So make sure you are hitting that like button, hitting that share button, getting involved in the comments, and also subscribing to the channel. We got to 700,000 subscribers last week. We want to get to 800,000 now. That is the next target, and we can hit it. Loads of people already. I'm going to whiz through some of these. Danny Inns, Adam Heisler, Mafa Christopher, Jacoya Trott, Martin P, Ineos Fushi, Tobias Nilsson, Ryan Yanni, Santa Notch, Red Manchester, Simeon G, Michael Felton, Lizzie C, all saying in the chat. In fact, everyone's saying good morning, Jay. Lizzie C saying FFSJ, I'm so over this, crying emojis. I know the feeling. Mike Fisher, who's been a member of the first team for 29 months, thank you for your support, Mike. Says, morning, Jay. I'm quietly confident now financial companies, Bloomberg and Reuters are reporting the sale is imminent. So hold your nerve. Hold your nerve. Yes. Is that a quote or reference to Rishi Sunak's comments there? Potentially. Comment coupled it. Says, morning, Jay. These Glazers are draining the joy out of football as well as all the money from our club. Well said there. Kevin Longer says, morning, Jay. Looking spicy today. Tell you what, I haven't touched spice in months. Right, let's get on to it. Let's talk about a bit of good news. Should we have a bit of good news? It's all doom and gloom in it. Oh, we're not buying anyone and we can't sell anyone and the Glazers haven't gone and everything's rubbish. No. Let's have a bit of good news. Lisandro Martinez tweeted this earlier today. So happy to be here. He's back at Carrington. Sorely missed at the back end of last season. It almost went under the radar just how important he was towards the end of the season when he was missing. I think, I know I'll get pellets for this and probably get clips up, but I think if he'd have stayed fit, there would have been a very different outcome in certain games. But he wasn't, so we move on. Now he's back in training. Massive bonus for Manchester United. We need him fit. He was such a good player for us last season. One of the best players, one of the most consistent performers, and just rejuvenated that defence. A defence that had looked terrible under Ralph Rangnick, all of a sudden got its act together, was great at playing out from the back, great under pressure, great sort of motivating his teammates and everything. Just a fan's favourite as well. You can't help but love Lisandro Martinez. And during the season as well, he just sort of pops off to Qatar to win a World Cup. Not too shabby, is it? So well done to him. Great to see him back. Hopefully, he'll be match fit for the start of the season. I'm not sure what his sort of timescale was. There was doubts whether he will be ready for the season, but he is back in Carrington. Hopefully, get him training soon, and then we can see if he's going to be ready for when the season starts. I think the first game is against Wolves, so we'd love to have him back for that. Get involved in the comments and the chat. Let us know what you think. Trans Trucker says, Leacher, class. Jacoya Trott says, possible future captain. I don't think there'll be many complaints if Lisandro Martinez was captain of Manchester United Football Club. I really don't. At the moment, though, I think Bruno Fernandes is doing a good job. I know Harry Maguire is the official club captain, but let's be honest, he barely ever plays. Let's talk about this United tax. Laurie Whitwell did a piece in The Athletic, I think it was yesterday or this morning, talking about the sort of transfers, what's going on. And one of the points that he made in this piece, which has been picked up by this Twitter account, says, at Old Trafford, selling clubs are believed to impose a United tax on transfer. John Murtagh experienced this last year with an estimated £15 million youngster who saw his price almost double when United call. That happens all the time. It does. We all know about this United tax. People go, oh, well, is it real? Is it real? Well, it is. If you look at the way we're linked with players, and then when we buy players, how that value sort of, or the cost skyrockets. A good example I always think of is Dan James, because Dan James is used as a sort of an example of where we got it right. People say, look at Dan James, we bought him relatively cheaply and we sold him for a profit after a couple of seasons. That's the one bit of business that actually made sense at Manchester United. And everyone looked at it when we bought him and think for 12 million going, 12 million quid for an up-and-coming player from the Championship, not too shabby, especially when you fast forward and realise we got 20-odd million for him or whatever. But let's not forget, he was at Swansea, wasn't it? Leeds, I think, came in for him in the January for around 4.5 million, something like that. Didn't happen. The transfer didn't happen. We came in the summer, 6 months later, for 12 million. So his value tripled when he came to Manchester United. Now, you may say, well, in those 6 months, he set the world alight, but he didn't. He had a decent spell, but there wasn't an indication where you go, wow, he's suddenly become this mega star where you want to spend triple what you're going to spend on him. Now, I'm not having a dig at Dan James. I thought he was a relatively decent signing, played some good games for us, obviously had a great record at the Etihad, moved on, probably wasn't good enough, moved on for a profit, fine, even though I don't like the fact he went to Leeds United. But it just shows that United do have to sort of up the ante when we buy players, and we know we've overpaid for players. Harry Maguire for 80 million, I think it's quoted in the article as well. A prime example of United just overpaying. Now, a lot of this went on Ed Woodward's watch. Famously, a bad negotiator when it comes to buying players, just always spending whatever the selling club wanted. Same with Crystal Palace, they wanted 50 million, they got it. Leicester wanted 80 million, they got it. Don't get me started on some of the other transfers we made, the likes of Angel Di Maria, for example, where we ended up paying a lot of money. But at least with Di Maria, you can go, okay, he's a player that just won the Champions League, was a bit of a start. Some of the other ones, we were paying big money for players that had never kicked a ball in the Champions League, never won anything. It was just a little bit bizarre, and obviously you wonder how much the United tax comes into it. Some comments as well. Jay Frasconi says, Jay, good morning. I'm in America, and I'm curious. If the latest reports are true and the club is sold and Glazers are finally gone, how massive will the celebration be in Manchester? I expect the roof blown off OT. I agree. I think the celebrations will be biblical, my friend, and I'll be a big part of that. I think Santa Knox has just made a point there. No one else would have had to pay 50 million for Aaron Wan-Bissaka. Yeah, I don't think they would have. I like Aaron Wan-Bissaka. I think he's a good player, and you could argue, especially if he carries on playing the way we've seen under Erik ten Hag, it'll be worth it in the long run. But at the time, that's the top end of what you're ever going to pay for him. That is what Crystal Palace literally wanted, and they got it. And you feel like they got it because it was Manchester United. Wayne Davies says, remember what Newcastle wanted, 50 million for Longstaff. There was about 30 million United tax on that. I remember that one when we were linked with him and it was like 50 million. Seemed very excessive. Ash K. Dwarka says, Jay, thoughts on David De Gea leaving? The way it's going seems to be a massive lack of respect. Yeah, I'm going to get into that in a little while, but I do agree. In fact, have we got anything on David De Gea? No. Oh yeah, it's the last year. I'm gonna get to that later, but I agree. Listen, I do think it's time for David De Gea to move on. I've said that last few months, if not longer, but I don't like the way the club have gone about it. But I'll get to that in a minute. First of all, let's talk about this takeover, because I know you're all chomping at the bit to have another discussion about Manchester United takeover. First things first, obviously. Can we hit the like button though, please? Over 1,000 people watching, not even got to 300 likes. Come on, people. Smash a like, as the kids say. And don't forget, if you've not done already, to hit that subscribe button. We want to get to 800,000 subscribers, and with your support, we can do it. Now, as you can see here, this is in the Express. Man United takeover live. The Glazers split over sale. As Sheikh Jassim keeping busy. Was he doing a bit of gardening? What does that mean? It's keeping busy. It sounds like when you've retired. Don't worry about me. I'm keeping myself busy. It says nearly 8 months after the Glazers confirmed they were open to potentially selling Manchester United, and the situation remains ongoing. The family are yet to indicate their preferred course of action, despite Sheikh Jassim appearing to be the front runner in the race to buy the club. And that's causing chaos for manager Erik ten Hag as he looks to strengthen the club this summer. Says Manchester United remain in limbo as the takeover saga continues to rumble on. The Glazers first confirmed they were open to a potential sale back in November, having ruled the roost ever since 2005. And it goes on to say there are now suggestions not all 6 Glazer siblings want a sale to go through. And it is also being claimed that Sheikh Jassim is keeping busy while keeping a low profile in the background. So you can keep, if you just scroll a bit further down. So yeah, there's all sorts of conflicting things here, different reports going on. Louis Saha, who we had on the channel not long ago, he's mentioning about David De Gea. We'll get to David De Gea in a bit as well. So apparently this is a quote from The Athletic about John Murtaugh turning down the £28 million transfer or whatever. So yeah, there's a few bits and pieces, but the main crux of that article there, and we're going to get to the Caicedo thing in a minute, is the fact that the Glazers split. Some of them apparently don't want to sell, some of them do. That was what we heard, was the reasoning or the thinking behind Sir Jim Ratcliffe's bid. One of the offers, or one of the bids that he was prepared to put on the table, was a facility for the Glazers to stay on for a few years, not have control of the club, but stay on and still take dividends or whatever they're going to do. So that left a bit of a sour taste in the mouth, to be honest with you, because we all want to see the Glazers gone. But I think that was the thinking, that this could be a way of getting the deal done if they're not all on the same page when it comes to selling. They need to go. We all want them gone. it's an absolute farce that they did this in November. They released a statement where they said they were looking for strategic alternatives. Everyone thought this is it, ding dong, the Glazers are gone, and now they're still here and sort of dragging the reels or whatever, and it looks like it's going to be between Sheikh Jassim and Sir Jim Ratcliffe, although there was a small indication, I think it was on the bottom of that Bloomberg article, or one of the articles I read recently, that there is a slight chance the Glazers could still stay. They could get minority investment, and when I say stay, I mean stay in control. Someone to fund the takeover of, the rebuild of the stadium, fund the training ground or whatever else it is, give them a little bit of a cash injection, and then stay on. Yeah, you can see here, it says here on the Glazers split. According to Global Finance magazine, the Glazers are split over whether to sell United. A source said it's getting the kids to agree. Not all 5 want to do the deal. Avram, Kevin, Brian, Joel and Edward are seemingly involved in a disagreement over what to do. And it's also claimed United were about to be sold to Sheikh Jassim, only for the disputes within the family to put a possible sale on ice. I mean, it just seems like a shambles, to be honest with you. Nick Albany says, to be fair, Jay, you may be on the road to 800k subs, but we haven't seen a 700k special yet. A special with all you 4 lads will be glorious. Let's go. Yeah, we are going to be doing more content together in the coming season, and we'll be doing a lot over the summer as well. Also going to be on the tour together, so you can expect to see our beautiful faces together on more videos coming soon. Big thank you to you as well, Nick. Thanks for all your support. Thank you to everyone who has supported the channel back in the full-time Devils days, but even more so over the last couple of years since we took it over at Stretford Paddock. All 4 of us are very, very grateful. Make sure if you're not doing as well, you are hitting that subscribe button and give us a like. We've not even hit the 300 like mark yet, which is an absolute farce. Right, let's talk about Min Jae. Poor John Shin, my friend John Shin, who I'm going to see over in the States. Big fan of the, big part of the channel. He's been part of the channel since back in the full-time Devils days. He's a big South Korea fan as well. He wanted Min Jae to come to Manchester United. Looks like it ain't happening. Florian Plettenberg has been on the channel. A reliable source says Min Jae came on verge to join. Bayern now confirmed. Last crucial details were clarified in the last days. Understand it was a hard poker because United were planning to improve their bid, but Kim has definitely decided to join Bayern. Deal is reported, contract till 2028, salary 12 million euros or whatever. Bayern will pay a release clause of around 50 million euros. Very good player, had a very good season with Napoli, helped them win Serie A. United were in for him. At one point, it looked like that was a done deal. I think we all thought that was going to be, a formality. However, he's gone to Bayern Munich, where he's obviously guaranteed in it to win the Bundesliga, play in the Champions League every year, potentially win the Champions League as well. I don't blame him. It's just a bit annoying because it looked like someone that Erik ten Hag wanted and was a gettable player as well. But if Bayern Munich have got in there first and we're still dragging our heels, then what do you expect? You can't ask the lad to sit around waiting to see if Manchester United are going to buy him, especially when Bayern Munich might go, well, we'll look elsewhere. I think he'll do a good job at Bayern Munich. I do. I think he's a really good player. And I also don't rate Upamecano. I know everyone else does, but I don't. I think he's a bit overrated. Anyway, my concern isn't what's happening at Bayern Munich Football Club. It's what's happening at Manchester United Football Club. Let's talk about Moises Caicedo. It says here, Graham Bailey says Manchester United have contacted Brighton and Hove Albion over Moises Caicedo, so sources have confirmed interesting move from United as they continue talks with Chelsea over Mount. This is 90 Minutes Football with Scott Saunders, so I think these chaps are working for reporting on what's going on for 90 Minutes Football. Caicedo looks like it isn't going to happen for Manchester United, doesn't it, on the sort of surface, because you think, okay, we haven't got, or we're not willing to pay more than 55 million for Mason Mount. I'll get to that in a minute. Are we going to go in with an 80-90 million pound bid for Moises Caicedo, especially with Chelsea also in for him? Seems unlikely. You never say never. United might end up doing this, but if I was a betting man, I wouldn't bet on Moises Caicedo being in a Manchester United shirt next season. As always, we will monitor it. I sound like Manchester United monitoring FC. We will let you know if anything does develop on that, but I'd file that one under unlikely. Let us know in the comments in the chat, what do you think? Pravav Kadouali says nobody beats Bayern Munich in the window. Very true. Max K says so frustrating. City improving, Arsenal going big this window, Liverpool improving, even Spurs improving, and we're going nowhere. What else? Wayne Davies says Erik ten Hag recently said that top players want to come to this club. Who are they? Where are they? Maybe they do, but unless you pay the money for them, you're not going to get them. So you could be a top player and you could be a mad United fan where you're desperate to come to Manchester United, but you can't force the club to spend 50 million or whatever on you. And if that's not happening, it's not going to happen. I think Moises Caicedo apparently is a bit of a, I don't know if he's a United fan, but he had a soft spot for Tony Valencia because he's an Ecuadorian, is he? But that doesn't mean he's going to come to Manchester United if Manchester United don't pay 80 million quid to get him. Same with Mason Mount, he's keen on a move, but if Chelsea aren't going to accept Manchester United's bid, then he ain't going to come. Min Jae apparently was happy to come to Manchester United, but United haven't even put a bid in for him. So you can't make these transfers happen without a bid. And when you've got the Glazers in charge or owning this football club, it's always going to be hard work getting deals over the line. BMW Racing 1974 says Moises would be an excellent signing, but we won't sign him. I agree, I don't think we will. Someone else there, someone just said, is Graham related to Gary Bailey? Andrew says that. Gary Bailey is the goalkeeper when I first started watching United in the 80s. Because that's how old I am. So talk about Mason Mount. Dylan says, by the way, we're a joke of a club. I'm not panicking yet, but it's hard to disagree. So far, we've been pretty poor. Oh, sorry. Hang on a minute. Wow. Ronaldo Nazario, read super chat. You only put it up 3 minutes ago. Don't worry, son. I'll get to you. Red to renew Mount talks. United will hold further talks with Chelsea over the signing of Mason Mount, according to the Telegraph. More talks. We said that 50 million plus 5 million of thinking add-ons or whatever it was, the way we structured it. That was the limit. We weren't going to increase that offer. That was our third and final bid. Now there's going to be talks. Now, unless those talks involve Chelsea going, OK, we'll accept your offer, I don't see the point of him. Unless, of course, United are going to increase their offer, which would be par for the course for Manchester United Football Club, because that is kind of what we do. We say, oh, we're not going to pay over the odds, or we're not going to do this, we're not going to do that, and then we end up doing it. I think Joe said it well on Transfers Live a few weeks ago. What will happen with this negotiation is Chelsea will put a price on Mason Mount and they won't. United will say no, we'll put in a bid, Chelsea will reject it, we'll put in another bid, Chelsea rejects it, and in the end we'll end up paying what Chelsea wanted in the first place. Ronaldo Nazario says, this is ridiculous. Why do Premier League not have rules and time frames for takeovers? I wish they did. I wish we could get this takeover done, and I wish we could have some more money in the kitty to buy some players. The Mason Mount one's different. I don't think we should be paying more than 55 million for a player who's had a poor season and he's out of contract at the end of this season. Oh, then next season, sorry. I rate Mason Mount. I think he's a decent player. I'm not a mad fan. I'm not going to pretend that I am, but I'm sort of warm to this idea of getting him. The more I've spoken to Chelsea fans, the more I've looked at some of what he's done. I think, okay, the numbers add up in terms of his goals and assists. He's productive. He's won a Champions League and obviously played a big part in winning that Champions League. And at 50 odd million quid for a player who's Premier League proven and still only 24 years old, it makes sense. However, when you start talking about 60 odd million, I think there's got to be a limit where you go, no, that no longer makes sense. And for me, that is where United should walk away. But apparently we're not going to walk away. We're going to walk into negotiations, which I think will end up with United offering more money, because it's just what we do. Santa Notch says, Gary Bailey, greatest save of all time versus Gordon Smith, last minute, the cup final. I think that was the 1983 cup final, if memory serves. The first one, was it? Before the replay? I always remember the commentary, and Smith must score. I think there was a Brighton fanzine called that as well, if anyone cares. Hit that like button. We're almost at 300 likes. How are we going to get there? We're on 299. Is anyone going to be the person to send us over the 300 like market? Go on, mark it. There we are. We've done it. Well done. Also, if you're not doing as well, hit subscribe. Can we put a subscribe link in the chat, please, Ethan? We want to get to 800,000 subscribers. With your support, we can do it. Let me know what you think about Mason Mount. Are you big fans? Do you want him or not? Prabhav Kandawali says, the slowness in this window is depressing. Akshay Dwarka says, Ander Herrera, just one of them. Mason Mount. Danny says, not sure why we are looking for 2 number 8s when we need a goalkeeper, a striker, and a CDM. And yes, Santa Notch is backing me up on the commentary front. Not bad considering I was only 3 at the time. Alexander Tomlinson says, Caicedo is too good of a signing for our board. Lol. Love that. Johnny Henson says, Jay, see the Samuel Luckhurst report saying Eric Ten Hag is reluctant to sell MG11 and only wants to send him on loan. I think it was McCall that made the point of, you send him on loan, you're just kicking a problem down the road, aren't you? You're not dealing with it. And let's face facts, whether you like him or not, it is a problem. Let's talk about Goncalo Ramos. Says here, Benfica president believes United will pay Goncalo Ramos release clause. United could sign Benfica star Ramos in their search for a second striker. Correa de Mana says, that Benfica president Rui Costa believes United are willing to match Ramos' release clause but face competition from PSG over his signature. The report suggests Costa has already turned down an offer of 50 million plus 10 million add-ons from an unnamed club for Ramos. It suggested that Benfica want 80 million euros for the 22-year-old and his release clause is in the region of 100 million euros. We shouldn't be paying anywhere near 100 million euros for him. He's a very good kid, very good player, scores goals. Obviously, shots of prominence in the World Cup where he replaced Cristiano Ronaldo and scored a hat-trick. But I don't think he's worth 100 million euros. I don't think we've got 100 million euros to spend on one player. You have to spend a lot of money on a striker. If you want a striker, you're going to have to spend more than 50 million, even for an up-and-coming striker. Usually, anyway. But I think 100 million euros does sound excessive. Maybe United can get some sort of deal there, or we can go in with a bid they're willing to accept. If indeed we are after him, we have been linked with him. We've been linked with Rasmus Højlund as well. We've also been linked with Victor Osimhen. I don't see that happening, and I definitely don't see Harry Kane happening, which is frustrating, but we'll have to wait and see. Yash says 100 million is 86 million quid. Thank you. Decent. Let's talk about David De Gea. Right, David De Gea. In fact, first of all, let's read this super chat from Darren Cox. It says, why isn't United looking to buy from some of the clubs in Europe who are in worse financial shape? Barca, Real, Juve, just for a start. De Jong, question mark. I can't cope with another summer of De Jong rumours. I can't. Seriously. Last summer, it was deal done, bid accepted, terms agreed, players spoken to Ten Hag, Barcelona are happy for him to go, and it just didn't happen, did it? Because he didn't really want to leave, and he wanted his money that Barcelona weren't going to give him, the money that they owed him. So, I don't know. De Jong, he looks like a good player. Obviously, Eric Ten Hag wants him. Do I see him coming to Manchester United? Maybe. Juve, we were linked with Vlahovic, weren't we? I don't know if we're going to get anyone from Juve. We'll have to wait and see. There was even talk, I seen on social media yesterday, we should go back in for Paul Pogba, because apparently Juve are looking to sell him. Whether you like Paul Pogba or not, he's not going to get better on the injury front if he comes back to Old Trafford. He's missed so many games over the last few years that it makes zero sense for us to buy a player who is constantly injured. He's just missed basically a full season. Doesn't make any sense to me. And I think going back for Paul Pogba would be a step backwards, but you may disagree. Get involved in the chat in the comments. Let's talk about David De Gea. Says here, Chris Wheeler in the Daily Mail says, United's U-turn over De Gea's new contract could lead to an unedifying exit for a long-serving player, but it's a sign Eric Ten Hag has lost faith and he's putting his foot down. Now, there was this talk, or sort of reports were that we'd gone in with his contract offer for David De Gea. We'd ask him to take a pay cut from his 375k a week. He'd accepted that. He signed the deal, give it back to Manchester United, and Manchester United have gone, actually, we're going to take that deal off the table and come in with a lower offer. I think that's where we're at. His contract runs out in a couple of days. Is he going to put pen to paper? I'm not sure. I think it's time for him to move on. I think today's the anniversary of him signing for us 12 years ago. He needs to move on, in my opinion. Now, you may go, well, we can just keep him around, have him as a backup. No, I don't think that works. I don't. I think if you're going to have someone as a backup, a player of the calibre of David De Gea, who's obviously been at the club for 12 years and has been number one for practically all that time, is he going to get any games? Is David De Gea going to get any games as backup? If he's not going to get any games, then it seems silly for him to stick around. Now, if he is going to get games, if you say to him, Lord David De Gea, you're going to be my guy in the cups. So you're going to play in the Champions League, the FA Cup and the League Cup. Do you trust David De Gea in those competitions? Do you think he's going to be good enough? If he's not good enough for the Premier League, he's going to be good enough for the cup competitions? Was he good enough in the cup competitions last season? Was he good enough against Sevilla in the Europa League? Was he good enough against Manchester City in the FA Cup final? He wasn't. He was found wanting. Now, I like David De Gea. I think he's been a fantastic servant for Manchester United, and at one point was the one player we had who would walk into any club in the world. One of the only players we had. However, now is the time for him to move on, and I don't think him staying around and rotating helps anyone. We could be sat here in 12 months' time going, oh, David De Gea cost us that cup game. I don't want that. I think it's time for him to move on. Now, I'm not saying he costs us games all the time. Obviously, he's got a lot of clean sheets and he broke the record, he got the Golden Glove last season. But we know he doesn't fit into this system. We know he's had his issues around shot stopping as well, which is usually what he's amazing at. So I just think now, perfect time for him to move on. I think if he does stay around, it's counterproductive. I don't think it helps Manchester United. I don't like the way he's been treated. I do think he's been a great servant, and this giving him a contract, taking it off the table and all that stuff doesn't really help. But we'll wait and see what happens. Go through a couple of comments before I wrap up. Yash says it was Maguire and De Gea for second leg. Bro, yes, it was Maguire, but you cannot tell me David De Gea didn't play a part in those goals. One of them, he literally gave the ball away and fell over. It's not just, you can't blame that on Harry Maguire. Andrew says, no one pays wages, no ways. Pravan Kandawali says, no way, David De Gea will sit on the bench. KC says, Snyder and Battistuta. Here we go. I'm going to wrap it up there. Thanks to everyone who got involved in the comments and the chat. Been a really good... just before I wrap up, a couple of super chats. Don't want to miss them. Danny Inns, who's been a member of the first team for 34 months, says, I can see us keeping Mason Greenwood and not signing a striker. Stranger things have happened. Dylan Roberts, he says, hi Jay, hope you're doing well. Anyone else disgusted about the treatment Ronaldo got by Erik ten Hag? I'm not. I thought Ronaldo made his own bed there when that interview with Piers Morgan gets zero sympathy from me. Max K, who's been a member of the Academy for 25 months, says, I remember we'd only signed Malacia by mid-July last year. Patience is key. Also met you lads last year in Melbourne. You're all top lads, GGMU, and you're a top bloke as well, Max. Thank you. Thanks to everyone who's shown support. Don't forget to hit like, share, and subscribe. I've been Jay. This has been a Paper Talk. We'll be back later on, me and Joe Smith with a tier list. Make sure you check that out. Thanks for watching.